Ever dreamed of buying lots of properties and living off the proceeds when you retire? Sure you have. And property can be a good way to top up your pension. But before you actually risk your future on it, you should learn from other people's mistakes. This week I'm helping two developers in different areas of London who've both got the same idea: renovate, rent out and sell up in years to come. Shafi Ahmed plans to transform this 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house into a 10-bedroom, 6-bathroom, 3-kitchen monster property. And across London, Derek Gallimore is in danger of over-investing in a house with a fatal flaw. Shafi Ahmed has made some money in the property boom. She's just sold her flat in this tower block and invested the money in this £400,000 house in Hendon, North London. And within a week of picking up the keys, she's ripping off the roof to convert the loft, even though she has no planning permission for anything she wants to do to the house.
I do feel supremely confident. These guys, they seem to be doing their job, you know. I'm not worried at all. I just can't wait to get the rooms.
Shafi's planning to put as many bedrooms as possible in this property, so she can rent it out room by room for £3,500 a month. That's twice as much as she currently earns as a nurse. But I'm worried she's getting carried away. So this is the house here?
This is the house.
And how did you find it?
Well, it's through an agent.
Right.
And I found it in the paper. I saw it. I just rang them up and asked them, is it still available? And they told me yes. On the day I came, I decided to buy this house on the same day.
Oh, right, so it's quite an impulse buy?
Yes.
Had you seen many properties?
Yes, I have seen many, many properties, but this one, straight away, I said yes. Everything else, I said, I'll think about it.
How many bedrooms are you having in the whole property?
In the whole property, 10 bedrooms I'm going to have.
Crikey, it's like a TARDIS. It doesn't look that big from the outside.
I know.
For an Edwardian property, the layout of this house is pretty much as you'd expect. Upstairs, you've got 3 decent-sized bedrooms, a bathroom and a loo. Downstairs, there are 3 reception rooms, a kitchen breakfast room, a garage, and there's a shed at the bottom of the garden. This is great. So 10 bedrooms. Where are they all going to be?
Well, there's 2 in the loft, 3 on the first floor, and 2 down here, and 2 in the shed, and 1 in the garage.
Crikey, squeezing them all in. Yeah. So this is going to be one of the bedrooms,
yeah.
and this is going to be another room, is it?
Yeah, that's right. This is going to be another bedroom.
Right. And this is going to be a sitting room?
This is going to be a living room, it's sitting room.
Right. This is the only sitting room for all 10 bedrooms?
That's right, yeah.
It's quite small, isn't it?
Not really. Not everyone, 10 of us, are going to be at the same time in the same room.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, no, because they'll also have TVs in their own rooms as well. Right. Not everyone want to be sitting in the living room all the time.
Because otherwise they'd have to sit in a row, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Shafi's being unrealistic about how many bedrooms she can fit into this house. She wants to put a bathroom and 2 bedrooms in the loft, even though there's only planning permission for 1 bedroom up here. And she's being equally ambitious with the rest of the house. On the ground floor, she wants to turn 2 of the reception rooms into bedrooms, leaving the house with just 1 tiny sitting room. She plans to turn the garage into a self-contained studio flat, complete with kitchenette and loo. And she's got some even more far-fetched plans for the garden shed. Gosh, this is a great shed. How are you going to make this into accommodation? This is going to be 2 rooms?
2 rooms, yes. Originally, I had an idea for 1 room, and then my friend Morris said that I could make 2 rooms into it and just get it insulated and have a bathroom put in there, and then 2 rooms and a kitchen here.
Have you got planning permission for this?
I was told that you may not need a planning permission.
I don't think it's the case. In fact, I know it's not the case. You can extend your house a certain amount. That's called permitted development rights. And it's a percentage of the size of your house. You're entitled to extend it without getting planning permission, but it has to comply with building regulations. But there's no regulation or law to say that you can have a habitable room in your garden. Did you confirm that with anyone?
No, I haven't yet. I would check on that.
I think this would be really useful storage. It would be a great studio in terms of a painting studio if you're an artist, or you were, you had kids who needed to hang out. But I think it's massively unlikely that you would ever get planning permission for a habitable dwelling out here. Shafi is really overcomplicating things. This is a lovely 3-bedroom house in a quiet residential street, perfect for the family rental market. The loft conversion is a good idea, and if she left it at that, she could rent it out for as much as £2,300 a month. But she wants to get £3,500, which she thinks she can do by renting out all 10 rooms individually. But for this, she'd need a special licence from the council. What's more, she can't afford it. Having bought the house for £394,000, she has just £45,000 left over for the work, which she wants to do in just 8 weeks. Shafi needs a massive rethink. Well, I know you have started the loft, but I wonder if it's a bit premature starting work already, and whether you shouldn't put the brakes on a little bit until you've resolved some of these issues, because there's a lot that hasn't been resolved.
Yes, but I wouldn't stop the builders going ahead with it. I want them to go ahead with it and finish it because the roof and everything else, I
think what you really need to do is actually work out what is best for the house and what will suit the house, rather than try and fit whatever you can into the house. It's not about what you want, it's what the house will give you, because you're going to have to compromise in some way with every house. Every development is a bit of a compromise somewhere. If Shafi doesn't compromise on the amount of tenants she tries to cram into this house, she may end up with no tenants at all. Badly designed properties are hard to rent out, and tenants will move on quickly. If you're thinking of property as a long-term investment, then long-term tenants are worth their weight in gold. Across London, in Acton, Derek Gallimore has learnt this the hard way. The problem with his house is it's right on the A40, one of the busiest roads in the city, which makes it tricky to rent out.
The road is a major issue. No one wants to live here, basically, and I bought into the house cheap because of the road it's on, so I do acknowledge that.
For 2 years, Derek has been renting the property out to the backpacker market for £1,800 a month. A high turnover of rather careless tenants has taken its toll, and Derek has had enough. Although he can't change the road, he's hoping to attract a better class of tenant and an extra £1,000 a month by updating and upgrading the house itself.
The house currently is a 3-bedroom, 2-reception, 1-bathroom property. I'm turning it into a 5-bedroom, 2-reception and 4-bathroom property.
Over the next 12 weeks, Derek plans to transform this 3-bedroom terraced house. He's planning a loft conversion with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. He'll keep 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms on the first floor. And on the ground floor, he's building a new extension at the back of the house to create a spacious, open-plan kitchen living area. Derek has spent months preparing for this project. He's got his planning permission and has a team of German builders living and working on site. And things are beginning to take shape pretty quickly. Unfortunately, Shafi is completely unprepared and is rushing headlong into the work regardless. So obviously you've had no roof on for 6 weeks, and I mean, we're fortunate that there hasn't been any really horrendous weather, but picking up now. As with any business, there are many different ways to approach property developing. And when it comes to buy-to-let, there are ways to make money and ways to lose it. Derek Gallimore has done his research and is treating his project in Acton, North London, like a military operation. Unfortunately, Shafi Ahmed is less prepared, is living on site in her house across London in Hendon, and is pretty much making things up as she goes along.
As long as you do a nice bathroom, I don't mind if it's small or big.
I think I'll bring in this wall a little bit.
Okay.
The main thing Shafi cares about is getting as many heads on beds as possible. She wants to turn this perfectly normal 3-bedroomed house into a vast 10-bedroom property and make £3,500 a month renting it out room by room. I've tried talking her out of it, but if she ploughs ahead, there's some serious red tape she ought to know about. Now, when I first came here, you were determined to have 10 separate bedrooms rented out to 10 separate people, which sounded like an absolute nightmare, I have to say. Have you changed your mind?
Well, as you remember that I was going to have 2 of the rooms in the shed. I'd given up that idea completely. And then I was going to have a self-contained room in the garage. I've given up that as well because it keeps the value of the house.
Right, so that's 2 not in the shed, so that's down to 8.
Yeah.
And then you're not doing the one in the garage, so you're 7.
7. But I am going to have a room above the garage.
Oh, right, so you build above the garage, so that's back up to 8 again.
8 again.
So 8 separate bedrooms?
Yes, yes.
I mean, that is an awful lot of bedrooms to squeeze into a house like this. But also there is one other issue which you should be aware of, and that's that if you have a 3-storey house that's occupied by 5 or more separate tenants renting out different rooms, you actually have to get a licence from the council, which is a house of multiple occupancy licence. Now, there's a whole load of extra regulations that come in with a house of multiple occupancy.
Now, I will think about that and see if I can. Oh, well, take a chance and see if I can get it.
Shafi should have thought all this through before she started work. Renting a house of multiple occupancy means putting in extra fire doors, providing enough bathrooms and kitchen areas, and these things cost money. What's more, renting the house out room by room will give Shafi more vacant periods between tenants and a higher maintenance bill for the upkeep of the property, all of which will eat away at her profit. With a couple of years' experience as a London landlord, Derek Gallimore has realised that renting houses out room by room can be more trouble than it's worth. When you finish the property, what are you planning on doing? Are you going to rent it out as one house or rent the room separately?
I'm going to rent the house as one unit. I want a house that effectively manages its own affairs. I mean, obviously I will oversee it and make sure they're not trashing the place, but I just want a group of adults that will get on with each other and sort out the house themselves, basically.
Well, it's very wise to do it that way. People who rent a separate room tend to be more transient, and people who are more transient tend to invest less emotionally in where they're living.
Sure.
And you're much better off letting it as one unit, because apart from the legislation involved, you also don't need to get a phone call about the fact that somebody hasn't cleaned the bath out, as well as the fact the boiler's broken down. Derek does seem to be on the right track, and his development is racing along. As well as adding 2 extra bedrooms, he'll also increase the number of bathrooms and living space to keep the property well balanced. He's wanting to attract young professional house sharers who will hopefully be lower maintenance than the backpackers and a bit better for the profit margin. He bought the house for £250,000 and is spending £75,000 converting the loft and adding the extension to create the new kitchen living room. He hopes to rent out the property for £2,800 a month. This would be a 10% yield, which is an acceptable return in this market. So with one eye on the figures and another on his builders, Derek's feeling pretty pleased with himself.
It's weeks ahead of schedule and possibly even a month or 2 ahead of schedule by the finish date. The Germans come in and basically almost completed the main structure of the loft now. They're going to start on the rear extension very soon once rear scaffolding can come down, and basically it's flying ahead of schedule, or at least to schedule, very, very efficiently.
Back in Hendon, poor Shafi's 8-week schedule is already becoming a distant memory. 4 weeks in, she's still working on her plans. She's had to admit she can't fit 2 bedrooms into the loft, so she's now trying to fit more bedrooms in elsewhere. Worryingly, she still hasn't applied for planning permission for any of her ideas. But at least now she has brought an architect on board.
On the ground floor here, I would like to gain 2 rooms and still keep the utility room. If I could have, shower room in the bed in the rooms.
Okay, so you want a utility room
and 2 bedroom if I can get that.
Shafi's latest plan is to build a 2-storey extension at the side of the house, adding 2 extra bedrooms on the ground floor next to the kitchen and another bedroom on the first floor next to the bathroom. This brings her total bedroom count back up to 9. but the architect has managed to talk her back down to 8.
There was a temptation to overdevelop the ground floor, I feel, especially with a second bedroom. So long as we keep now to what we discussed, and it was just 1 bedroom at the ground floor and retain the existing garage, then I think, yeah, the scheme is going to be a feasible one.
I still feel Shafi is overdeveloping this house, and I suspect the architect does too. But the client gets what the client wants. And before she's let the ink dry on the architect's plans, let alone gone off to the council for planning permission, Shafi has remortgaged the property to pay for the work.
I have applied for 50,000 extra loan on my mortgage, and they approved, and they said within 3 weeks they will let me have the money.
Shafi seems to be doing things in the wrong order. It's best to get planning permission in place first, then borrow the extra money, and only then actually start the work. As it is, she has an expensive loan she may end up not needing, but there's an even bigger problem. If they build the 2-storey extension, the design of the entire roof will change, so they can't put the roof back on until the plans are approved. Therefore, the loft conversion has to go on hold.
I started something that I got to have a lot of patience to wait, because I didn't know it's going to be this sort of a mess and everything else, but I don't mind waiting. It's just, I know it's quite frustrating sometimes, but what can I do? Just have to wait.
Shafi might not mind waiting, but head builder Bill isn't too happy with yet another change of plans.
Oh, frustration is a very small word. First of all, there was a dormer, then there wasn't, and then there was again. Yeah? So, with the new pitch and the side roof, it meant that this side of the roof could not be tiled until the new addition was added onto it.
From day one, Shafi's disorganisation has been slowing this development down.
She's put the cart before the horse in a number of ways, particularly with councils. Ideally, she would have got all that in place and then employed a builder.
And now Shafi's not just wasting time, she's wasting money. She's paying the builders to stay on site, but there's precious little they can do. It's 6 weeks since I was last here, and there hasn't been a great deal of progress made.
No.
With hindsight, it would have been better to not start the roof extension until you'd formulated your plans for the whole house. If you could go back in time, would you wait and start the loft once you decided what you're going to do with the whole project?
Yes. If I knew I would have, I wanted to build on the other side, yes, I would have waited.
It could be another 8 weeks before you've finalised the plans and got planning permission. I mean, you're fortunate that there hasn't been any really horrendous weather, but picking up now. This project shows just how difficult property development can be if you're not prepared. Over in Acton, Derek's project is on time and on budget, but he's starting to question his layout.
The space is big, but probably not big enough to put in the amount of rooms that I need to put in, unfortunately.
Derek has decided he needs more bedrooms to guarantee his rental income. So he's turning one of the reception rooms into a bedroom, and that's not all.
This was the old bathroom, basically. I've now decided to turn it into another bedroom. So it's going to be a sort of reasonable-sized single bedroom, and going with the 3 remaining bathrooms in the house.
As with most things in developing, deciding how many bedrooms to put into a house completely depends on the target market. If Derek was trying to attract families, he shouldn't be upping his bedroom count. But for young professional sharers looking for cheap accommodation in this area, a 7-bedroom house may appeal. After 8 weeks, Derek's builders have broken the back of this development. Frustratingly, Shafi's still stuck at the first hurdle of hers. Planning permission. The plans have been going backwards and forwards between Shafi and her architect and the council, getting amended and changed for months. And now I've spotted a real problem with the latest version. What about upstairs?
Now upstairs is my concern is that I don't lose my single bedroom.
Yep. Shafi's had to scale back the size of the extension so much that she's not even gaining a bedroom upstairs. I want to convince her that the second story of this extension isn't worth doing. Now, what I wanted you to envisage is that this corner of the house, on the first floor, where you're planning on extending, is down here. Okay, so this is the existing corner of the house, and these are your plans. That's about a metre. A bit further, a metre that way. All you're gaining is this little extra bit. So you're not getting an extra bedroom, all you're doing is gaining extra space. So instead of 2 doubles and a single, you're going to have 3 doubles. And the cost of doing this is, I mean, you're going to be spending an extra 20-odd thousand pounds to gain this amount of space, an extra 20,000.
On the other hand, I'm also getting an ensuite shower room in there.
But I just think to take the corner of the house out and lose these 2 walls is really expensive in engineering terms and complicated.
I mean, now that you have laid it out, yes, it does look a bit small, but then I'm just thinking, okay, I'll get a metre there and a metre and a half there.
I think you would be better off just extending on the ground floor a single-storey extension and leaving the house at that, saving the money and getting this job finished as quickly as possible and not spending the extra thousands of pounds it's going to cost to remove the corner of the house.
Yes, I can see your point, but I got to find out a bit more before I, you know, commit myself to anything else.
But what Shafi didn't tell me was that she has put herself in an impossible position with her builders. She signed a contract committing to the work and paid a large deposit up front before she even got planning permission. This is utter madness, and she's kept the builders hanging around on site for so long that it's too late now to change her plans and get her money back. So if she gets planning permission, she has to go ahead with the work. Once again, this really shows the importance of forward planning. And while the wait goes on, Shafi comes up with what she thinks is a bright idea.
Well, I advertised on the net and I found a couple of tenants. I still have more people ringing me, and there are people from Australia and Spain wanting to come end of the month. So I said to them, if you can move in the condition it's in, that's fine. Right. They agreed and they moved in.
Good.
She manages to find 4 tenants who are prepared to pay £130 a week per double room. But this is a risky strategy. Shafi's told the new tenants that the building work will be done within a month, which is just not possible. And trying to keep tenants happy living on a building site is going to be another massive headache.
When I go in for a shower, I expect to come out clean.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting in there.
Shafi Ahmed and Derek Gallimore are both maximising the potential of their properties to gear them up for the rental market. But while Derek and his German builders are bang on schedule, poor Shafi is limping through her development very slowly without a plan.
Yeah, because all the doors are locked.
Right from the start, she had a totally unrealistic schedule. How long do you think this project's going to take?
Well, 4 weeks for the loft and 4 weeks for the rest, and altogether it'll be 8 weeks.
Gosh, 8 weeks to be completely finished.
Completely finished.
That was 4 months ago, and for the last 2 months, the site has been pretty much at a standstill. Shafi has struggled with getting things in the right order. She's got 4 paying tenants in, despite the fact the house isn't finished. And she's paid a £15,000 deposit to the builder for an extension she hasn't yet got planning permission for. But finally, she's heard back from the council.
I got the permission. Okay. I got it. Yes.
We'll be starting Monday morning.
So 4 months after they started, the builders can now finish the loft conversion and get on with the rest of the development. But although Shafi and the builders might be happy the site is up and running, the tenants don't seem to be.
And another thing is, yeah,
when I go in for a shower, I expect to come out clean.
Yeah,
and it's disgusting out there.
I
It's full of dust.
You clean it, but then within half an hour, it's all coming through the.
Yeah, like because the hole in the roof. As soon as there's a big, gust of wind up in the loft, blow all of the rubbish down through the hole while you're having a shower.
But the state of the house is only half the problem. On the ground floor, 2 of the reception rooms are now bedrooms, and the tenants are just too close for comfort, especially as they don't have the same taste in music.
But then when you're speaking about the TV, when somebody's trying to watch TV, it doesn't help when there's loud music playing out here.
Yeah, well that was at 11:30 at night and I was on an early shift.
No one could hear my TV, all they could hear was your stereo.
Yeah, Gerard, I woke up
upstairs.
to your music.
Yes, but
Diamonds
Michelle,
are a girl's
it's like,
best friend all
yeah,
day.
but it's like I've got rights as well. I don't want to be listening to the television,
Yeah, but why
so I
should
can
wake
listen
us
to
all
my
up?
music.
Hang on.
She's now 6 months into this development, and Shafi can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas over in Acton, Derek's just about done and dusted, and he's managed to stick to his 12-week schedule. He set out to extend and upgrade the house from 3 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms, but in the end he squeezed 7 bedrooms into the space. The big question now is, will his layout work for his rental market?
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, fine, thanks.
Good.
All finished.
It's all finished?
Good.
Yeah.
Let's see how you got on. This looks great. So the last push has been very hard work, has it,
Yeah,
to
the
get it
last
finished?
sort of week has been hard work, but it's happened now.
I'm impressed with how well this site has run, and the finish is good. But although open-plan living spaces are popular with a lot of people, I'm not convinced it's the right choice for his market.
With 7 bedrooms, you're going to have 7 sharers. And so ideally, you would have 2 separate living spaces. One where they could, say, watch the telly, and another area where they could listen to the radio. It's just there's a lot of people to all want to do the same thing at the same time. That's quite a big call for renters.
They're going to get to know each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
In the rest of the house, the layout works well. He's got 7 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, which again, for this market, in this position, is an acceptable ratio. But Derek also wanted to create a property that would basically manage itself, and I don't think he's completely cracked this.
I think what you have to accept is that if you're going to have 7 bedrooms, you are going to have to redecorate the whole house, recarpet it, probably once a year, if not every 2 years, with this many bedrooms.
Sure,
this size of
absolutely,
house.
absolutely.
Derek really needs the figures to stack up to make the extra hassle worthwhile.
Oh, it's a nice bathroom.
I got the house valued, and according to the agents, it will now command a rental income of £2,600, which is £800 a month more than he used to get, and a 9.3% return on his total investment, better than some landlords are getting at the moment. I think his £77,000 budget was money well spent. Derek has the makings of a good project manager.
I mean, it's going to be high maintenance, it's going to be high wear and tear, but you've ended up with a good return. So well done. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Yeah, it's gone really well, and I'm really, really happy, actually. It's excellent.
3 months after he started work, Derek's house is ready for renting out. A week later, a group of young professional sharers have taken on the whole house for a fantastic £2,700 a month. In Hendon, Shafi's house is still a building site, and although she's prepared to live in it, several tenants have come and gone. The tiny sitting room is a real problem, but I think I've got just the solution. While it's tricky to turn a shed into bedroom space as Shafi intended, it's quite easy to turn it into extra living space. I've brought Shafi to South London to show her the kind of things she could achieve with her shed.
Now, this is a perfect example of a lovely shed. I'm quite a shed fan, and this one does it for me.
But really my point on this is the fact that you've got 4 tenants who are renting different rooms at the moment, so there isn't a sitting room that's really satisfactory for them. And you've got your great big shed at the end of the garden, and it wouldn't cost that much to utilise it for the moment on a temporary basis as somewhere for people to hang out during the day.
Yeah.
Shafi wouldn't be the first person to use a shed for additional living space. Around 20% of sheds fit that brief. As long as your shed isn't too large and you don't build right up to your neighbour's boundary, you probably won't need planning permission to create this extra room in your garden, although you will have to comply with building regulations. Most pre-built designer sheds can be installed in under a week for a lot less than an equivalent-sized home extension. And it could add up to 5% to the value of your home when you come to sell. This shed costs £7,000 as a complete package, including insulation, double glazing and electrics. In Shafi's case, she could convert her existing shed into basic living accommodation for around £2,000. Do you think that you might consider spending that money?
Yes, I would.
It's really about utilising the space that you've got while the house is being done. And you've managed to find some tenants, amazingly, who are prepared to live in your building site. So to keep them happy, you might as well use it.
Yeah, yeah, it's an idea that I would find out, you know, how to go about it.
After raising my hopes, Shafi decides against the shed idea.
My main aim is to get the buildings ready in the house, and then I'll go for anything else extra that I want to spend.
However, even Shafi knows that if she wants to keep her last remaining tenants, something has to give. Not a moment too soon, she finally sees the light about the front reception room. She stops using it as her bedroom and turns it into the main living room in an attempt to keep her tenants happy. Shafi thought that getting tenants in would be an easy way to cover some of the cost of the development, but it's turned into a huge added stress.
Yeah, 29th of April is the finishing date.
And although the living room is a step in the right direction, the tenants are running out of patience with the chaos in the rest of the house.
Well, from my point of view, being a builder, well, an ex-builder myself, it's been very slow.
What we were told was meant to take a month. It should have been ready by Christmas.
And they seem to do everything the wrong way about, you know. They leave half a room unfinished. They go and start a new room, and then they go and do another room half finished. Then they go on another job, and you think, well, you know, it's surely you've got to do one room at a time. And then, but, as I say, we're just tenants. I mean, we can't say too much.
This is a classic lack of communication. Shafi hasn't told her tenants what will be done when, because she doesn't know. She hasn't discussed it with Bill, the head builder. But there's a much bigger problem with Shafi's lack of communication. The delays with different planning permissions added months to this schedule. And while they were waiting, the builders stayed on site and tried to fill their time doing other bits and pieces for Shafi. But she's never discussed with Bill, the head builder, whether this means he will charge her more than he originally quoted for the job. And Shafi has no bargaining power. From the beginning, she's been paying the builders up front, and she's now in a situation where she's paid over half the money on the contract, even though less than a quarter of the work has been done. It's clear that the money is going to run out before the work is finished, and Shafi needs to come to an agreement with her builder before that happens. I mean, it is really hard to manage builders. It's one of the most difficult things, and it's especially hard when you're in your position with little experience, and the less experienced you are, the harder it is. And I mean, obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing, but you really want to make sure with builders that you don't pay them for work that they haven't done. And that's easy to say, but once you have, you're on a downward spiral.
So, but then I'm in a position, if I said no, next time when they ask for the money, are they going to just leave me, you know? That's how I feel. Well, I feel vulnerable.
I do understand that, and you are in quite a vulnerable position, and I think it's really difficult. The only thing at this stage I would advise is you need to try and keep him on side, because you don't want him to leave. I would sit down, not only about the money, but about the time scale, and I would say to your builder, here's a calendar. can we both agree there's this amount left on the contract? What will you do on which date? And how much money do you want? I mean, it's a very difficult position. Once you're in this position...
I've got to be very careful now.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think you ought to make contingencies for the fact you might have to pay extra money, because you may well have to pay more than the contract.
That's how it seems like now.
But Shafi never does sit down with Bill, and she never comes up with a sensible contingency plan. Weeks turn into months, and when she's paid the full amount on the original contract, which including the loft conversion comes to £75,000, plus an additional £8,000, she stops paying them and they stop work. 7 months into this development, there's still no end in sight.
Since I now got the planning permission 20th of December, 5 months later, I'm still stuck. I'm stuck. The builders are having fun with my money. That's what I feel. Yeah. They're saying they run out of money to finish my work.
While Shafi thinks the builders are having fun with her money, they think that with all the extra weeks they've worked, they've done more than enough for the money they've been paid. They've taken another job, and there's been no sign of Bill for weeks.
I've been trying to contact you all week last week, and this week now I can't get hold of you. Please call me.
He's not answering the phone now.
I am quite frustrated, but what can I do? It's just I'm under their mercy.
After 6 weeks of stalemate, Bill gives in to Shafi's desperate pleas. He agrees to send 2 labourers to finish the job without receiving any more money. And although Bill still isn't on site, they've come up with a new way of working. Over the phone.
And then the men, the Chinese, they're hanging around. They don't know what to do with the marble tile for the edging. Will you ring him up and tell them, please, because they don't want to take any instruction from me? Yeah, working.
This is completely crazy, trying to run a project with your builder on the other end of the phone. But beggars can't be choosers.
Tell them to paint all the door, paint the bathroom ceiling, the downstairs, you know, the shower room ceiling. Yeah, and then also the porch, the front hall need to be painted.
So 10 months after this development got going, it's still anyone's guess if it will ever get done. Her costs are totally out of control, and I'm beginning to worry whether Shafi will hold it together. Although it seemed like Shafi Ahmed would never finish her development, amazingly, the building work on her house in Hendon is almost done. And all that's left is a few finishing touches. I only hope that some cushions and a couple of candles will be enough to make up for the very odd design and layout of this house. Shafi set out to turn this 3-bedroom detached house into a 10-bedroom, 6-bathroom, 3-kitchen rental property. All for £45,000. In the end, her room count has almost halved and her budget has almost tripled. And for Shafi, it's been a long 11 months.
I'm glad it's all over now, and I thought I'd never get there, but it's all over. I'm proud of what I have done in this house.
This project has certainly had more downs than ups. And nearly a year after I first came here, I'm dying to see the end result. Let's have a look at it all. On the ground floor, Shafi's original plan was to convert the open-plan living area into 3 separate rooms, put a self-contained studio flat in the garage and convert the shed. Thankfully, she dropped the shed idea and kept the garage for parking. But squeezing 3 rooms into the living area may have limited the type of people who are prepared to live here. The most successful room on this floor is the one she didn't touch. The kitchen is light and airy and just big enough for the number of people who are going to be living here. Behind the garage is the new extension, the ground floor of which contains another bedroom and a separate bathroom, which will add value to the house when she comes to sell, as it would make an ideal au pair's room or granny annex. It's a lovely light room. And how brilliant to have access to the garden from this room. I think that's going to be nothing but a good thing. But the second story of this extension simply wasn't worth doing. Shafi wanted to gain an extra bedroom and a bathroom on this floor, but all she ended up with was a tiny shower room and a few extra feet of bedroom space. You haven't really gained that much. You had 3 bedrooms on this floor, you've still got 3 bedrooms. Admittedly, the single is now a double, and you've got a little extra shower room attached, but it's not a big, lovely, huge room, this. How do you feel about the room?
I'm glad I did the extension for rental point of view, that it's good to have an extra shower room, but I'm not entirely happy with the layout of the room.
So it's not as nice as you expected?
No, not at all.
This room is an odd shape and the maths just don't work out here. Shafi spent thousands of pounds on the first floor of this extension and she's only gaining an extra £30 a week in rent. In the loft, Shafi's original plan was to shoehorn in 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. Thankfully, she's settled for just the 1 room, with an ensuite bathroom. But even that doesn't feel very spacious. In fact, this house couldn't comfortably accommodate any more bedrooms. Now, you started off wanting 10 bedrooms, which is a lot of bedrooms to shoehorned into the house. How many bedrooms did you end up having?
I ended up with 6 double bedrooms, 1 on the loft, 3 on the first floor, and 2 on the ground floor.
So you've lost 4 along the way?
Yeah.
I think that's no bad thing. If and when you decide to sell this house, it'll undoubtedly be easier to sell it as a 6-bedroom house than a 10-bedroom house, because the 10 bedrooms would have been really compromised spaces. Do you think that maybe your plans at the beginning were just completely unrealistic?
Yes, like the shed and things like that. I wasn't thinking about planning permissions. So now I learned a lot more. Next time I'll think different.
So you're going to do another one?
Maybe.
Let's hope next time round she gets her figures sorted, because this time her costs were completely out of control. Shafi's original budget was £45,000, but she then decided to go for a 2-storey extension which took her budget to £70,000. But in the end, Shafi spent over twice that much, a massive £143,000. And most of this was down to the fact that she kept changing her mind. Her architect and structural engineer fees cost her a huge £8,000, which she hadn't budgeted for at all. And because the project overran, she ended up spending £11,000 on her mortgage payments. In the end, she paid the builders £83,000, £13,000 more than the original contract, which, considering the way she managed the stage payments and how long they spent on site, could have been worse. And you took a massive risk paying the builders up front for work that hadn't been completed. I mean, I think you have to take a certain amount of responsibility for handing over so much money with no specification, no planning application. A lot of builders will take money if you're prepared to hand it over. And they did come back and do the job, which I think a lot of people would have just run a mile with the cash.
Yes, I've been quite naive on this, but next time I wouldn't do this way again.
But all that is history. What's important now is to find out how much she can rent it for.
It's lovely.
Nice, isn't it?
Very pleasing room.
It does look a bit of a mishmash with the levels.
Sharers would walk in here and take it straight away.
It does have the benefits of the fitted cupboards and the ensuite wooden flooring. Not too sure about that bed there, though.
Nice family bathroom, I see.
Okay, so they're doing very good use out of it. It's not good enough for a master? No.
It's a lovely room.
I asked the estate agents to value the house for room-by-room rental and for renting it as 1 unit, and I think the results will surprise Shafi. How much do you think that you'll be able to achieve now in terms of rental?
Around £3,000.
How much do you think that you'll be able to get if you rent it as a whole house?
Around 2,000.
Well, actually, the average valuation to rent it as separate rooms was £3,250. And if you rent it as one whole house, the average valuation was £2,900.
Oh.
What's noticeable about that is that the difference between renting it as a whole house and the separate rooms is not a lot. And
I'm amazed, yes.
And actually, in terms of hassle, if I was you, I'd rent it as one whole house. So might you now consider renting it as one house rather than separately?
Yes, I might, yes.
And it shouldn't be too hard to find a group of sharers that would take on this house.
Is it big enough though? There's a few of us. There's what? Yeah, 7 seats here. Be cosy, definitely.
For a student, you wouldn't expect something this nice.
Lucky this has an ensuite. But it's a tiny bedroom.
I'm not sure about having the window right by the bath though.
Man, look at the shower. It's have to be like 4 foot tall to actually go in there.
Mate, haven't you heard of having a bath?
I like the fact there's an ensuite just round the corner, and the fact it's on the ground floor, so it's close to the kitchen, which is quite nice.
Very happy with this.
Would you?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
You can have it.
If I could afford it, then yeah, I'd go for it.
I've seen a lot of other houses. I've been looking for a while, and this is probably my favourite one at the moment.
So at least the house gets the thumbs up from Shafi's potential market. But when you're property developing, even if you're renting, you have to keep one eye on the resale value of the house. Shafi bought the house for £394,000. Including her cost, stamp duty and fees, her total investment is £537,000. I got the house valued for sale and the average valuation is £547,000. which would give her a £10,000 profit, which isn't a great return. And the rental figures don't look brilliant either. If she rents it out for £3,250 a month, it will be a 7% annual return, which is less than the 10% minimum you should aim for. And it won't give her a very big slush fund for the maintenance bills and vacant periods she will get landed with if she rents it out room by room. What Shafi didn't realise is that without building a 2-storey extension, she could have rented this property out and still got exactly the same return on her investment. And what's the plan next? And will you do another development, or is this it?
I would like to do another house, but I have to be definitely sure before I go into it. This time I have learned my lessons. And I would employ someone who would be in charge of looking after everything, not me on my own. I wouldn't be a front woman.
You've got to admire Shafi for persisting with this project where others might have given up. And if she does go on to do another development, she will reap the rewards of lessons learnt on this one. But for now, Shafi is sticking with renting out the rooms individually and currently has 4 tenants, bringing in £2,080 a month in rent. Meanwhile, back in Acton, Derek is getting stuck into his next development. Next time in Harlexton and Dunstable, with 2 sets of people willing to risk it all to become big-time property developers.
You know, this can make or break us, really.
I can't see how we're going to sell the place with a huge, great oven.
I think there is a good chance you'll have to keep it there.